You might be doing everything right and still feel stuck. Have you ever wondered why? Maybe the answer isn't in what you're trying to achieve out there, but in what's silently growing inside you. There are internal forces, behaviors, thoughts, subtle addictions that act as invisible brakes on your prosperity, and they are more common than you think. These blockages have names. They are sins disguised as modern habits. They are emotional, spiritual, and mental chains that drain your vital energy, sabotage your purpose, and interrupt the flow of true wealth. Napoleon Hill already taught us, everything that prevents external success starts as internal disorder. And until that is dealt with, no financial plan or success technique will work. Today, you will be led to a revelation. Not about what you need to do, but about what you need to stop allowing. Prepare yourself to look inward with courage, faith, and honesty. Because by recognizing these 7 spiritual blockages and acting against them, you can take the most important step toward your freedom. Not just financial, but spiritual. A journey of healing and reconnection begins now. What's blocking you isn't the world outside. It's what's silently consuming you from within. Prosperity doesn't escape those who seek it with faith. It distances itself from those who unconsciously sabotage it day by day, feeding sins disguised as harmless habits. Many ask for an abundant life, but keep sowing seeds of scarcity, without even realizing it. How can one bloom if the soil itself is infertile? There's an inner force that longs to expand, but it gets suffocated whenever the ego, fear, and disordered desires take control. To prosper is more than to acquire things. It's to align what you think, feel, and do with the purpose God designed for you. That's why many try and fail, because they are still spiritually chained by invisible bonds, nurtured by automatic choices. Today, those chains begin to break. This video is an invitation to courage. Courage to look inward. Recognize spiritual blockages and face what's stealing your vital energy and your calling. This is not ordinary content. It's a summons. A journey of restoration begins now. If this message has already touched something inside you, like the video and comment below with the phrase, "I choose to live with clarity," your decision. To comment activates your mind and aligns your faith with truth. You are about to discover the 7 sins silently sabotaging your prosperity. These are attitudes and thoughts that, according to Napoleon Hill's teachings and spiritual principles, act like poison disguised as routine. They not only block your flow of wealth, but also contaminate your creative energy, steal your peace, and distance you from your divine mission. Ignoring this is perpetuating an invisible cycle of frustration. But there is a way out. Each of these sins can be overcome with practical actions and genuine faith. Faith not as mere words, but as daily attitudes aligned with God's wisdom and the fruits of the Spirit. By recognizing these flaws and making different choices, you will begin to experience not only financial freedom, but a complete transformation touching your spiritual identity, your relationships, and your legacy. This video is not about pointing fingers, but about opening eyes. It's a revealed map for those tired of going in circles. Here, you will find clarity, direction, and liberating truth. Prosperity is not a prize for a few. It reflects what you quietly cultivate. And today, that silence begins to speak. God does not deny prosperity to anyone, but He also does not give a river to someone who cannot care for a spring. The spiritual truth is simple and profound. Prosperity is released when the heart is ready to use it with purpose. Napoleon Hill said everything starts in the mind, but only flourishes when aligned with a higher consciousness. The problem is never the lack of money, but the inability to spiritually sustain what is desired materially. Heaven does not respond to haste, but to preparation. Many pray for open doors, but continue disobeying simple principles like gratitude, self-control, and love for others. Biblical prosperity is not accumulation, it is mission. It is when money becomes a tool, not an idol. Life with purpose requires faithfulness in small things, including how one handles time, sexual energy, generosity, pleasure, and impulses of the ego. It is not God who delays the harvest, but the absence of an obedient heart. When there is spiritual disobedience, even subtle, the flow is blocked. Because those who are not willing to obey in secret are not ready to lead publicly. Prosperity requires reconnection, inner healing, and a firm decision to live by the fruits of the Spirit, not by the temptations of the flesh. There is no true prosperity where there is no love for others. This is one of the first spiritual blockages that goes unnoticed. The person closes off, isolates themselves, believing they don't need anyone, and starts living as if life were only about winning. But prospering is not about rising alone. It's about growing to overflow. When you ignore others, you break one of the most sacred pillars of the divine plan, love as an expression of faith itself. Napoleon Hill spoke about the importance of the mastermind, the alliance of minds in harmony. But even that becomes ineffective if the heart is hardened, selfish, indifferent to others' pain. It's easy to deceive oneself into thinking kindness is weakness. But spiritual truth is that God tests our hearts by how we treat the small, the invisible, those who have nothing to offer us. Abundance doesn't flow where compassion is dry. A simple example: a person may be excellent with finances, have impeccable planning, but if they aren't connected to the value of others, their life becomes barren. Money might come, but it doesn't stay. Because where there is selfishness, there is a crack. Real prosperity begins with healthy relationships, with serving, with sowing, even when there's no immediate return. A heart that loves others is ready to receive more because it has understood the purpose of the harvest. There is a subtle line between seeking prosperity and idolizing money. When money becomes the center of decisions, emotions, and identity, it takes the place that belongs to God. Spiritually, this is a serious deviation. Many don't realize it, but they live chasing the next material conquest, the next financial goal, becoming enslaved by what should only serve as a tool. Money itself isn't evil. The problem is the throne it occupies in the heart. Napoleon Hill warned that obsession with wealth without purpose blinds you. This kind of greed doesn't present as evil, but as justified ambition. And when everything revolves around personal gain, creative energy gets contaminated. Fatigue, anxiety, and constant dissatisfaction follow. Behind all this is a deep spiritual emptiness crying out for reconnection to what really matters, the divine purpose behind every resource. A practical example: someone might pray for more money, but deep down wants it only for status or control. No blessing can sustain that. Prosperity without alignment is a burden. The secret is to return money to the place of servant, not master. When God is the center, everything else falls into place. Prosperity is a natural consequence of a life with eternal values, not idolatry disguised as focus on results. Few things drain vital energy like the relentless pursuit of immediate pleasure. Pornography is one of the most subtle and destructive forms of spiritual self-sabotage. It imprisons the mind, contaminates the heart, and steals the ability to channel sexual energy which God created as a source of creation, not dispersion. When this energy is diverted toward empty desires, spiritual and financial prosperity is blocked at the root. Napoleon Hill spoke of sexual transmutation as a key to creative power. But how can one transmute what is being wasted on impulses? Every click, every distraction is a vote against your purpose. Quick pleasure promises relief, but delivers apathy. The mind, clouded, loses clarity of mission. And the heart, increasingly distant from God, begins to normalize what destroys its inner strength silently, day by day. A real example: Someone who spends hours feeding hidden addictions loses time, focus, and vigor, loses spiritual presence, loses authority. Instead of building, they consume. Instead of creating, they weaken the creative energy that should sustain. Their spiritual vision is being poured into purposeless cravings. As long as this continues, no financial strategy or planning will sustain lasting abundance. Fear is one of the most disguised scenes and perhaps the most socially accepted. It dresses up as prudence, caution, even wisdom. But deep down, it is an invisible chain that paralyzes dreams, sabotages decisions, and suffocates the call. Napoleon Hill called fear the greatest enemy of success, and he was right. Fear steals creative impulse, blocks directed energy, and destroys the ground where faith should flourish. Those who live in fear live defensively. They don't act with faith, but with hesitation. They think too much, feel too little, and end up trusting what they see more than what they believe. And here is the spiritual point. God does not operate where fear reigns. Because fear is the absence of trust in God. It is a form of emotional disobedience. It's like saying with your mouth you trust, but with your actions you show you don't truly believe. This blocks the flow of prosperity. It's a clear example. Someone feels the desire to start a new project, feels it is God's direction, but postpones, rethinks, procrastinates. That is fear disguised as caution. And this kind of fear infiltrates strategic areas of life: relationships, finances, sexuality, purposeful decisions. 2. Overcome fear. Action with faith is necessary. Not impulsive action, but determined action. Practical faith, the only one that truly unlocks. Ingratitude is more than complaining. It's blinding oneself to the small miracles of daily life. It's living expecting more without honoring the now. And this is one of the most dangerous spiritual blockages because it prevents the harvest even before the sowing. Those who don't celebrate the little are not prepared for the much. Murmuring closes invisible doors because prosperity only manifests in fertile soil of gratitude. Napoleon Hill taught that a grateful mind becomes a magnet for wealth. The Bible confirms, in everything, give thanks. It's not about passive acceptance, but cultivating an attitude that recognizes God's action even in the hardest processes. Gratitude is a form of silent faith. It's when the soul says, "I trust even before seeing," and this trust produces fruits. It produces peace. It produces clarity. It produces movement. A practical example: people who only see problems at work, home, or with bills. But when they choose to be grateful, even without big external changes, something inside changes. And when that changes, everything changes. Gratitude aligns the spiritual frequency. It's like unlocking a key. It's sowing honor and reaping abundance. It shows God that the heart is ready for more because it learned to value what it already has. Envy is the sin that silently destroys spiritual identity. It is born when someone loses sight of their own journey and begins to measure their worth by others' achievements. This wounds the divine purpose and diverts creative energy toward toxic comparisons. Instead of sowing, the person watches. Instead of acting with faith, they emotionally sabotage themselves. Envy undermines prosperity because it extinguishes the unique light God planted in each being. Napoleon Hill said comparison steals joy, and it's true. When someone feels inferior because of another's success, it reveals a disconnection from their own mission. To prosper is not to defeat others, but to fulfill what only you were called to do. And as long as the focus remains on others' lives, your ground will stay infertile. Prosperity requires concentration, channeling energy, and clear spiritual vision. A direct example: someone sees a friend prospering, buying something new, and feels discomfort instead of celebration. That is a sign Healing begins with recognition. Instead of envying, celebrate. Instead of comparing, strengthen your essence. Each one reaps what they sow, and those who sow envy reap frustration. But those who sow gratitude reap abundance. Comparison ends when identity is healed. Loving God is not just a beautiful idea, it's a daily practice. It's easy to say you love Him, hard to obey when your own will shouts louder. Disobedience is a spiritual blockage that closes the heavens. It happens every time you know the truth, but choose the easier path. It's not the visible sin that most blocks prosperity. It's neglecting the small decisions where God has already spoken, and you pretend not to hear. Napoleon Hill wrote about following an inner voice, a higher calling. This voice, in the language of faith, is the Holy Spirit. Ignoring it is walking in circles, living, trying to make it work without alignment. Biblical prosperity is born from obedience, not empty effort. God honors those who honor Him. And to honor means saying yes even when it's hard, even when it hurts, even when no one is watching. An example: someone knows they need to break free from an unjust company, leave a toxic relationship, stop hiding an addiction. But they insist that insistence is lack of love, because those who love obey, and those who obey flourish. Blessing is on the other side of obedience. Prosperity is the fruit of a life that says, "Not my will, but yours." This is the key to real transformation. Now that these 7 sins have been revealed, it's time to act. Not hastily, but intentionally. Transformation begins with small choices made consciously. For each blockage, there is a spiritual key. For selfishness, practice service. For idolatry, realign your heart with God. For empty desires, channel your vital energy toward your divine purpose. Healing is in the movement. Start small, but start. Choose 1 sin per week and work on it with faith. If the problem is ingratitude, write down 3 things you are grateful for every day. If it's envy, publicly celebrate others' victories. If it's fear, take an action you've been postponing. The secret is consistency. Prosperity manifests where there is commitment to spiritual truth and practical action. It's no use just knowing. You have to sow with purpose, obey in silence, confess to God what needs to be healed. And remember, every harvest begins with a decision, a daily choice, a sincere surrender. God doesn't prosper what is disconnected from heaven, but He honors those who choose to walk with a humble, available, and determined heart. God only multiplies what is blessed with gratitude. This phrase carries an eternal principle. What you reject drifts away. What you honor grows. Prosperity is not magic. It is a spiritual response to a transformed heart. Life changes when the mind is renewed and faith becomes visible in actions. Words have power, and what is affirmed with conviction shapes reality. Affirmations are not just pretty phrases, they are seeds. When repeated with faith, they take root in the soul. Say often, "My energy is aligned with my divine purpose," or "I channel my strength toward what God wants to accomplish in and through me." These words, when aligned with the heart, not only motivate, they guide, they reprogram, they clear spiritual blockages. Repeat, "My prosperity is a mission, not an obsession." And I choose to act with faith and obey, even without understanding everything now. These phrases act as anchors when doubt and fear try to return. Affirmations with practical faith are spiritual weapons. They are daily reminders of your spiritual identity and the abundant life already designed for you. Just walk with courage. Now, it's up to you. For the next 7 days, choose one of these sins and face it head-on. Don't run away. Notice when it tries to show up and respond with the opposite attitude. If it's selfishness, practice a generous gesture. If it's fear, take an action of faith. If it's pornography, redirect your energy to create, serve, and grow. Turn poison into medicine. This is practical freedom. Don't wait for perfect conditions. God moves when you move. Write, pray, reflect. But above all, act. Faith without works is empty. Choose one sin per week. Write down the solution. Live the answer. And at the end of each day, write what you learned, what you overcame, and what still needs surrender. This simple challenge has the power to restore your energy, focus, and connection to heaven. You're not alone. Every attitude counts. Every decision builds something unseen. And when you honor this process, prosperity begins to manifest effortlessly. Because everything is aligned with your essence and the purpose God designed for you. It's time to act with faith, commitment, and intention. Heaven responds to a heart that decides with courage. If this content spoke to you, don't ignore what you're feeling right now. That discomfort, that clarity beginning to arise. It's no accident. It's the Spirit calling you to a new season. Like this video, but more than that, make it a public commitment. Comment below with the phrase, "I am ready to build my new reality." Say it with faith as a seed planted in the soil of your mind. Every comment is a spiritual declaration. Every like is a step of action. And every share can be a tool to free someone you may not even know. That's the power of reciprocity. By giving back what you receive, you confirm to heaven that you are ready for more. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications because this journey is just beginning. You are in a process of healing, restoration, and growth. Don't be silent. Don't hide. Participate. Comment. Share. So, these acts may seem small on the outside, but are giant on the inside. If this resonated with you, declare here in the comments, "I am ready to build my new reality." Let this phrase echo inside you until it becomes lived truth. Prosperity is not denied. It is waiting for your decision. God does not withhold what is aligned with your purpose. He only protects what we are not yet prepared to sustain. It is not a matter of deserving, but of spiritual maturity. When the heart aligns, the heavens open. When there is obedience, there is harvest. When there is faith with action, there are visible and invisible fruits. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be willing. Willing to renew your mind, channel your energy wisely, obey even without understanding everything, and walk by faith even when there is silence. Abundant life is built step by step, choice by choice, and every step in the right direction becomes a bridge to transformation. You are not far. You are one decision away. So start now. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel. This is your way of telling the universe and God, "I am ready." And if this message truly touched your soul, comment below with faith. I am ready to build my new reality. May your life flourish with purpose, and may every choice from today be a step toward your true prosperity.